I figured I'd do a video on living in Japan versus the U.S. And I'm not like one of these dipshit punks that has visited Japan for a week and he has the shot of Shibuya in the background or somewhere that's obviously Tokyo and starts talking about how he knows about Japan. Or some cunt that's been here maybe a year and she's an English teacher and she knows all about Japan. I've been here frickin' 9 years off and on. And I've worked all over the country, and I've worked in and out of the country in Southeast Asia, but mostly Japan. And I'm in the know. And that's a fact. I have the experience. I'm not like these other Dweebs that don't know what they're talking about. But I don't have Shibuya in the background. I don't have frickin' Tokyo Tower or anything, because you'd be paying attention to that more than what I'm saying. And also the audio with this camera, I don't have like a shotgun mic, and I guess I probably would be enjoying the scenery or whatever, but I have some downtime so I can do some stuff like this. But I'm trying to do, I could just do a straight life in Japan, but maybe I'll do a life in Japan versus life in the U.S., kind of throw some contrast in there. Okay, I've lived in Beverly Hills before for a year. I've lived in other parts of Los Angeles, I've lived in Seattle and stuff, and in Japan I've mostly lived in Tokyo. So, Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, backed up traffic, angry people screaming at each other, almost getting run over. Traffic is frickin' horrible. When I was working as an actor, to go 6-mile commute, it would take me maybe 15 minutes in the morning and maybe 2 or 3 hours coming back after work. Okay, Japan. You get everywhere on the train. Tokyo, everywhere. All my acting jobs, everything. I worked solid for like 7 years as an actor. I basically, my longest commute was an hour, but I was always going somewhere. Okay, Los Angeles. Okay, you park your car, you're going to get a ticket. You go into an audition or somewhere, job interview if you want to call it. You're always worrying about getting a ticket on your car and all that. Japan, no problem. That doesn't matter. You're not worrying about it, getting a ticket on your car unless you're driving. So transportation's night and day. Basically, when I was working full-time here in Japan, my travel expenses were about $300 a month, and I was going sometimes an hour and a half out of Tokyo some days, 100-mile commutes and all that was probably averaged about $300 a month. Okay, Los Angeles, Seattle, we're talking bottom, maybe $400 a month travel expenses working full-time to probably upwards of $1,000 plus, depending on if I needed to buy a new car, had serious maintenance problems with my car, and if gas was at $5 a gallon or not. And in LA, it's always $1 more. Also on that note, like, you can text on the train here. You're not getting in an accident. You can read a book or whatever. So you can actually do something constructive while you're on your commute. Versus in Los Angeles, you're not supposed to. Everybody does it. All the dickweeds do it. In Seattle, too. The dickweeds. So that makes the traffic twice as bad because the light turns green and they're texting and they're not paying attention. And then finally they go. Then you honk at them and they get pissed off because you honked at them. I mean, I guess America with transportation, everybody takes out a lot of their anger. A lot of their anger goes out in the car. It's a form of expression versus, but the crowded trains here are frickin' rough in the morning. I mean, it gets damn crowded. You get where you're going and everything in rush hour, but I've had it so bad, I had to hold my video camera above my head or it would have gotten crushed. And I haven't seen it happen, but I have heard of like arms getting broken and windows getting broken from stuffing people on the train. I used to live at a station where they did do that. I uploaded a video a few years back, and then I should have left it up, but I didn't. I took it down. I don't know why. but it had a lot of hits on it. But they stuffed everybody there. That was morning routine. But I was working off hours, so I didn't have to deal with that too much. So that's it for the transportation. Basically, the transportation here is a lot safer. It's a lot cheaper. Okay, food. Basically, I've eaten in tons of restaurants here, off and on for 10 years. I've eaten at a mom's and pop's place way out in Timbuktu, where it takes them an hour and they're actually cooking the food for you right there when you show up in the restaurant, or a half hour to a mom and pop's, wood building to commercial chains and all that stuff. And same with the States. But the bad news on that is for the first time in 10 years, last Sunday I got food poisoning big time. I mean, I had to go to the hospital and it put me down for like 2 days. I was just out of it. I couldn't even barely get out of bed. And when I first got here, I met a guy that said that he got food poisoning here, but in the States. But of course, I was there longer. I mean, we're talking, 10 years versus 30. I probably in the States, I've probably gotten food poisoning at least 20 plus times, with a few hospitalizations there. So there's that. The people, it's way different because here they're like a big family. They're all Japanese, so they're all like one big community, and they're conditioned or whatever. There's a lot of peer pressure for them to all work together and everything. And then in the States, it's the people here are selfish. Everybody's selfish, except for me. I'm the only person that's not selfish. Or that you wouldn't see this video because I wouldn't take the time to make it. No, maybe I'm selfish because I think I'm going to get famous because I have a huge ego. But anyways, that was a stupid waste of time, wasn't it? But the family, like I worked for a lot of families. One of my jobs was I worked with families a lot, and people here compared to the States are way, 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 way more family orientated. A lot more, a noticeable amount more, and than the States. Racism. Everybody's racist on the planet except for me. No, parts of me are probably unconsciously. It's a long story, but I had to fight in junior high school for like a year because I was white, my skin color. I had to physically get in a fight because of my frickin' skin color. And it was never one of them against me. It was 2, 3, and 4, and 5. So they didn't fight fair either. And here, I guess racism, they have racism, and also they have a bullying. Yeah, in the States they got big time racism. It's a different type, it's more diverse, but they got a serious racism problem in the States. It's really bad. And they got a serious racism problem here, but I haven't had any physical altercations except for twice. Both times I put the guy down. However I did it, I don't want to get into, but I didn't sit there and kick him and everything. I mean, once he was down, I just left him down and went on my way. But, and then I'm old now. I'm not an alpha male. But I've had a lot of problems, a lot of frickin' problems with males in this country, picking fights with me. Yeah, I don't know what it is about my energy, whether I'm looking for it, alpha male, whatever. I think sometimes, if you're looking for something, that's what you're going to find. If your focus is a certain way, you see more things in that direction. That's just the way the mind works anyway, so. But Japanese people in general, not all of them are racist, but out of here versus the States, the least prejudiced people I've ever met were some people in Japan were less prejudiced than anybody I've ever met anywhere in the States. I mean, I've met people here that were virtually the least amount of prejudice I'd ever seen anywhere of any country I'd ever been to. So that's just an issue, but some of it's, we're basically all just human animals. And animals just naturally, for some reason, they discriminate against each other for survival or whatever of the herd. They discriminate. And even Japanese people, they had a problem with bullying, where kids in junior high school were committing suicide and stuff because the older kids were picking on them, and that still goes on and still happens. And then I knew a guy here that I worked with a little bit, and he has white kids. He's from Australia, and he was having problems with his kids getting bullied and all that, but he brought it up with the school. They dealt with it, and fortunately those problems stopped. So that's a reality. But to the degree and scale, it's in both countries, racism. It's in every country, and we all have a little bit of racism, I think, in a way. Also, there's different types of racism, like religious racism. They want to kill you because you believe in a different God than they do or whatever. I mean, you've already heard about all that stuff. So we got Transpo in a nutshell real quick. The train's always on time. If it isn't, crash, wham, you'd see about it in the paper, even in the States or all over the world. I mean, so they have to run on time because there's so many of them and they're going so quick that if they don't run on time, it's bad. So they're on time. I've never had to wait that long like rush hour traffic in the States. It's just the transportation system is just way better. It's night and day. Rents, while we're on that, rents, see, if you get a place closer to a station, the rent's always cheaper. That's the deciding factor, and they go by, like right now I'm at a 9-minute walk. The other place I was at was a 15-minute walk, which they lied about. It was more like 19, or somebody running for it to be 15, but it was really, I lived in like a multi-million-dollar, really nice condominium in a really nice part of Tokyo. I had it going on for a few years there. So housing naturally is just like the States. I mean, if you're going to be in city upscale, it's going to be a lot more. You're going to be out of city outscale, it's going to be a lot less. And then prices are compatible to like LA or New York. I mean, if you want to live in the best of the best of the best in a nice area and a really nice pad, you can spend the same amount of money as, I think maybe New York and LA would probably be a little bit more on the high-end stuff. Because maybe Japanese people don't think that it's certain that they should spend that kind of money in a house unless they're probably super rich. So housing's probably basically the same. I think I forget, but when a family member passes away, and they tax the heck out of them when they sell the houses and stuff. And then the tax schemes in the U.S. as far as sales and houses is all going and back and forth and all that. Real negatives about houses here is most of them don't have any insulation in them at all. So you freeze your ass off in the winter and you sweat your balls off in the summer, basically. There's no insulation. Like where I'm at right now, I'm in an apartment in a cheap area in an outscale part of Tokyo. I mean, my neighbors could probably hear this conversation right now if they really wanted to listen into it. It's slightly muddled. And then if they were like getting it on, screwing their brains out, I'd probably be able to hear them. But there's a general common courtesy in Japan that people try to be quiet at night, and they try to be quiet or whatever, so there's a lot more respect because of the situation, whereas in the States, actually where I live right now and the place where I lived before, you weren't even allowed to play music. That was against the house rules. I mean, you couldn't even move in or rent if you were going to play any sort of music. So you were either going through headphones or whatever, but you couldn't play out loud music in the States. You can hear your neighbors blaring music and stuff and all that. States, people are a lot more louder, way more louder. I mean, I've been back here for about a month, and this is the first times I've been getting some really good solid sleep. It seems like I was in the States for 8 months on the last one, visiting my family that's busy drinking themselves to death. that I really can't deal with, that I don't want to be a part of right now, and that's another story in another video. But um, people here are a lot more respectful of the space and their neighbors generally than compared to the States, noise wise and all that, and everything wise. Other than maybe like with smoking, I've a couple different places that I've lived, I've had to deal with a lot of secondhand smoke, either coming through the walls or the outside or whatever. But they're the insulation just sucks here. They just don't get it. I mean, most of the housing here has like zip insulation, and they brag about how economical they are and how eco-friendly and all that. And if you don't have insulation, you lose heat and all that. I mean, so there's usually no insulation in the walls, and the construction's a little different. As far as construction, building and everything, I mean, they build places here really, really quick. I mean, it's like you see an empty lot, and then a week later you look down the street and there's a house there. It's like, huh, how'd that get there? So they're really quick builders here and stuff. They have certain building codes that they don't always follow, but they're basically, most of the buildings here are pretty well built. As far as housing, what else? I guess I've been fortunate enough to have lived with quiet, respectful neighbors, and that's what I got now. I mean, the whole time I was in the States for 8 months, I guess I got off track on that one. There was noise everywhere I went. Every freaking place I went, even including my mom's, and she's in like this old retirement place in Alabama, in Huntsville, Alabama, where NASA started and all that stuff. Even there, in an old retirement home, you know, you'd hear people at 8, 10, 11 o'clock at night banging around pots in the kitchen. You could hear your neighbors and stuff. So even there, but basically housing wise, it's noisy as hell in the U.S. and it's quiet here. And culture wise, it's noisy as hell in the U.S. and it's quiet here. I mean, you don't have people blaring stupid music out of their freaking cars all the time and all that. And some of the popular bigger areas that are popular, like Shibuya and all that, they do that, or they want to show off their Lamborghinis, so they rev them out or whatever. You know, those type of people. But it's a lot more quiet, a lot more mutual respect. I mean, even a lot more just people respect each other a lot more, I think, to an extent. I mean, let's face it, everybody's selfish. You can go to a ticket gate sometimes and you can change it either way. You have an electronic Passmo or a card to get, and you just click it on the gate, and then that gets you into where the train platforms are and all that. And I can't count how many times that I've raced against. I'll see somebody practically start running just so they can try to get through the ticket gate quicker. So there's competition there. So that's kind of funny. I guess with safety, main thing is sometimes there's farther distances in between the platform and where the train is. I mean, the actual train and where you get on. And one time I saw a girl fall, and her leg got stuck in there, but fortunately, you know, nothing happened to her. But there was a guy I knew that was an actor that broke his leg that way. He was drunk, and then he died like a year later because he just couldn't deal with not having a leg anymore, I think, was it. Okay, where should I go next? Crime. When I first got here, you know, you're scared of anywhere. You know, a new environment and all that. This is the safest frickin' place and I've only lived in Tokyo, so I can't talk about the outskirts. So you have to consider what I'm saying, as I'm a Tokyo boy. But I think I've had one umbrella stolen, and maybe that was because they just grabbed mine and switched it with the other. Or maybe I've had 2 umbrellas stolen. I've heard of some people having bikes stolen. I had one guy try to pickpocket me in Okibukuro, uh, and he was a high school kid, and I didn't actually catch him, but I could feel my wallet getting lighter in my back pocket, and then all of a sudden I saw him darting around, and then I have a little bit of street smart, so I figured he was trying to pickpocket me, but I didn't catch him in the act, but that was what he was after. So a lot of times I've carried my wallet in my back pocket, and I haven't worried about it. And so it's way, way more safe. You don't have a bunch of morons packing around guns on drugs. You don't have a bunch of people that are addicted to drugs like the States. It's a real big difference because they're not all doped up and they're not all messed up on drugs. They're not all crazy in the frickin' head. I mean, there's a lot of drunks here, but it's a lot safer. So you don't have generally people don't steal here. And physically it's really safe. It's just super duper safe for women and for men. I've heard from women and men. I mean, I've heard of some problems with stalkers and all that, just like anywhere else. You know, you're gonna have your perverts and all that. But you know, mostly it's freaking. There goes the quiet thing. You probably don't believe me anymore because you heard the bike going up the street. But that's pretty rare. But anyways, it's really super duper safe. It's the safest country I haven't been everywhere, but for a big city, and every big city I've been to, this is the safest big city I've ever been to in my whole life. And I grew up in Seattle. I was in some places in the States that were considered, you know, pretty safe for the States, and this is night and day. The other factor is they have a lot more cops here. There's a lot more cops per people, I think, is one of the factors. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's the culture and how, you know, I mean, I'm sure that's a lot of it. People, like, if they can't earn their keep here and they can't make it, they would rather commit suicide than having to steal from other people. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of other factors, but the crime rate is like practically zip. But it's white. The crime is organized and it's white collar crime, so you don't see it. It's like on a different level. If you're just an average person, you don't have to worry about it. I mean, like street crime and stuff is like zip compared to the States. But when you get into corporate level stuff and all that, you know, and mafia and all that stuff, yeah, you know, it's the same. But there's no collateral damage here. I mean, generally they go after the people they go after for the reasons they go after them. And then here the mafia is basically, they're into stocks and real estate and stuff like that. And they're not dependent, and prostitution, they're not depending on drugs as much, which is good because it keeps the culture from being a bunch of wackos like the U.S. So, you know, whereas the U.S., the one type of organized crime used to run most of the organized crime there, and then now it's switched to another group, so it's, you know, kind of switching hands all the time, and it's a mess, and they're having disputes, and it's pretty bad for organized crime there too. But street crime here, it's like super duper safe. Super duper safe. Okay, secondhand smoke, it sucks. They have smoking in bars. I like to dance occasionally. An old codger like me, I used to like to go out and shake a leg or break a leg or whatever you want to call it and dance and go to dance clubs. You know, I like to dance, but I don't go here because of frickin' smoke. You know, the frickin' every club has got frickin' smoke in it. And there's all these people here coughing and hacking and all the time because they smoke. It's just terrible. The frickin' smoking in this country is just really, really bad. And the government owns Japan Tobacco, so there's probably an ulterior motive there. They used to, I don't know if they still do, but anyway, so, and that nobody follows the rules. I mean, you're not supposed to smoke, and they have the smoke police and all that in public and all that, but, you know, often I've been hit by secondhand smoke a lot of times out in public, walking down the street and all that stuff, even in remote areas. It's like, and when you're an ex-smoker like me, it's, that sees it as life or death, it kind of pisses you off. Whereas someone that was never a smoker, maybe it doesn't really get to them like it does me. But even in the States, like when I was in LA in a traffic jam, I'd get secondhand smoke from the person in the car in front of me. So, yeah, that sucks. Okay. It's a lot less crime, a lot more stable because you don't have the drug problems that you do in the States. Also, you have a better focus for peer pressure to succeed, to go to school. Quite a few of the richest people in the world went to universities here in Japan, in Tokyo. So there's some really bright people here. Also, what I've noticed is their heads. If you look at Japanese people, their heads are physically bigger. Their heads, I mean, every time I go in to get a hat, to try on a hat, it's always too freaking big. If I want a hat that's going to fit me right, I mean, I have a small brain, maybe, I don't know, or I'm dumb, but their heads are physically bigger, so maybe that's why they're smart or smarter or whatever, but I don't know, but their heads are physically bigger. If you pay attention to it, you look for it, they have bigger heads than we do. So let's see. So safety-wise, and all that. Alcoholism is, I guess, comparable to the States. They have a problem with alcoholism here too. So that's ongoing. But I think physically they have a different genetic setups than a lot of the Europeans, so they don't have the genetic factor. That's another long story I could get into, but. Let's see, where else? Covered transportation, street crime, the food, covered that a little bit. You can get every type of food you want and everything, and I've had good luck with it most of the time, except for one time. You can get everything in Tokyo. Okay, if you're thinking of living here, like you grew up on manga or whatever, that's what a lot of people do. They that I've met that come here and live here and are fluent in Japanese is because they like the mangas or the comics or whatever. They just dig that stuff, And to actually, if you're going to live here long term, like I've been here 9 years off and on, and I'd say my worst mistake is that I didn't really try to learn the language. I was able to work full time, work some really cool jobs, and I didn't need to speak English except for in some very small spots, and then in other areas I had people do interpretation for me to get me by. But and I've known people that have lived here, worked here, survived here, functioned, do everything, fully lived in. This is in Tokyo. I mean, in a remote area you probably couldn't, but that don't speak very much Japanese. I mean, not even conversational. I mean, just basic, where is something and stuff like that. But like, not high-level Japanese. So, you can get by in Tokyo and you can survive without learning Japanese. But you miss out on a lot, I think. And it makes things a lot more complicated, like and it can be with serious issues like doctors and stuff like that. So, and a lot of time, like the doctors will speak English, but the medical staff doesn't speak much at all, and that's one thing that really kind of pisses me off. I mean, I should have studied Japanese more. And I'd recommend that you do before you even come here, or just come on a vacation and see if you like it here and if you really, really want to. But you got to have a strong desire to learn a language. You got to really want to. But like I've been in hospitals before, and the staff, the doctor will speak English, but the staff won't speak English. And I know they lied to get their job. I know they frickin' lied. Because they're in a position where, like, it's admissions or basic general and internal medicine, where you would be dealing with all kinds of foreigners or people from different cultures and stuff. and you would be required to speak English to have that position. I know that. And they lie, and they say they can. So you pay the price, because they want to cover face, they want to save butt, so they won't admit that they can't. They'll keep trying to deal with you in Japanese and get you to understand, and then they don't speak a lick of English. And they won't even go get somebody that speaks better English, because they don't want to get ashamed because they lied to get their job by saying that they speak English. They just totally frickin' lied to do that, so they won't go to their superior that might speak a little more English. And this has happened to me a lot. I can't count how many times I've met people that lied to get their job, saying that they could speak English, and they don't speak a word of English. Or they don't speak it very well, and they don't speak it good enough to do their job. And with the hospital, that kind of gets on my nerves, because we're talking about medicine. We're talking about a serious issue, you know. If it's like a restaurant and you get the wrong order, that's harmless, you know. But I mean, a serious in the medical profession, having people that can't speak English that lie about it, I think that's flat out not cool, you know. And they get away with it, so they just lie. They tell their employer they can speak English to keep their job, and they don't speak it, and so it's a mess sometimes. Dealing with that with the hospitals. On that note, I guess I'll go with medicine. The medicine here blows away the medicine in America in every way, shape, and form. I would not be making this stupid video. You wouldn't be looking at this ugly mug, listening to this crap coming out of my mouth if I wouldn't have came here. Because I had cancer, and the system in the United States was not willing to pay the money for me to get the right cancer treatment to get rid of my cancer. So I went for 9 more years with cancer. And I went, and because it didn't work in the States, I just assumed it wouldn't work here. So I didn't even try until one day my doctor said that I have more cancer in my body than I do regular white and red and blood cells. I had more cancer cells than normal cells. I mean, it was freaking high. It was high enough I noticed it. I was tired all the time, and I could barely breathe when I'd go up steps and stuff, and it taxes your system. I mean, everything's going to all the cancer cells and all that. So my doctor tried me out on the best, most expensive stuff they could get that I couldn't get in the States. He got me on a discount plan for it, and I was on it for a year, and I don't have cancer for 5 years. As of some tests I just had a few weeks ago, I got a few more to go next week, but so far so good. If I was in the States, I'd be dead right now. That's the difference between the medical. The medical in America is total bullshit. I worked for 20 years. I worked one of the most dangerous jobs that there is in the country. I didn't commit treason. I served my country. I worked my job solid for 20 years, the most dangerous job. I was, and then that's what I get. Crappy medical treatment. I need them to help me out, and they just spit on me. I come here, I haven't hardly paid a dime into the system, and I get better medical treatment. There's no comparison. It's way cheaper, way better, and way more advanced. Nothing more to say there. And all you Americans are brainwashed about all that crap. You think, oh, it's inferior medicine in other countries and everything. Well, I can tell you from 9 years. Also, I was raised by a doctor. And I've been around by a bunch of doctors, so I would know a little bit about it. I don't want to get into detail. But yeah, it's night and day. Also, you got your medical insurance card. It's good at all the hospitals. You go to the frickin' there, you pay your bill, you leave, you're done. You don't think about it for 20 more years. You don't have somebody calling you up from corrections harassing you, or this company telling you you didn't pay money for these lab results and you owe money out of the blue for this and all that and everything. It's a nightmare. And the only reason I stayed in the States, I would have left a long time ago. I just got set up with this chick wanted to have a kid. She basically got pregnant on purpose deliberately and didn't tell me and took birth control, and I was stuck there. I did the good father thing. Now I wish I would have left, because he won't take care of me or help me out, or doesn't respect me or anything. I lovingly take care of him as a father for 18 years, and then he's just a selfish prick. So like I said, the family thing's different and all that. You know, I didn't abuse him, and I wasn't dysfunctional around him too much and all that stuff. So you can tell by talking to me that I'm totally sane. But no, you know, I was a decent guy. But anyway, so that's basically it on the medical. Treatment's way better. Ambulances are free. It's a medical paradise compared to the States. Okay, taxes. I don't know about really high-end taxes, but taxes are a lot lower here. So you get better medical. You pay less tax. They raise the consumption tax. That sucks. Now it's 10%, but for years the taxes were a lot cheaper and all that. So, where else do I go? Taxes are cheaper. Still, medical care is way better. I'll stop there and then I'll start up with another one here.